This episode is brought to you by Forney Industries, official sponsor of Faction 46 and Nice Motorsports Truck Series teams. Forney offers versatile welding and plasma cutting machines, along with a full line of metalworking accessories for beginners, do-it-yourselfers, and professionals. Forney has everything you need for your next metalworking project. Shop for these top-of-the-line products at forneyInd.com. That's FORNEYIND.com, or at an authorized Forney dealer near you. Eric Estep here. One of my favorite parts of being a NASCAR fan is collecting diecasts. It's how I got my start on YouTube, actually. To me, a room is not complete until it features shelves of NASCAR diecast cars. It's as good a time as ever to continue your collection or begin an all-new one by pre-ordering your favorite driver's 2022 next-gen diecast at LionelRacing.com or at any authorized Lionel retailer. Lionel is the official diecast of NASCAR, and don't miss Lionel Racing's NASCAR Authentics diecasts at a Walmart or Target near you. Not only is Lionel the official diecast of NASCAR, but they're also official supporters of the Out of the Groove podcast network. So what are you waiting for? Head to LionelRacing.com to order your favorite driver's 2022 diecast.
You're listening to Made in Level Cross, presented by Pristine Auction. I'm Thad Moffitt.
And I'm Rowland George.
And today we're joined by a special guest to me, my fiancée, Lauren Welborn.
Welcome, Lauren, to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. So, what made you want to come on the show today? Besides, being forced by Thad to come on the show.
Yeah, I was told. You're being on a podcast at 6 o'clock. No. I think it's awesome that he's able to get on here and have a platform that people can listen to other parts of his life other than just what you see on TV or in person.
I agree. Now, it's my goal. I don't know if it's your goal, but my goal is to kind of embarrass Thad, but in the best way possible. So we got to unearth some interesting things about Thad. So if you're okay, we'll tag team and try to put Thad on the spot with some things after we're done interviewing you. Does that sound like a plan?
I think we can do that.
Okay. See? Too easy, Thad. All right. Well, let's start off. I'm sure the first question everyone would like to ask is how did you guys meet? Where did Lauren come from in Thad's life and vice versa?
So we actually met in 6th grade at good old Braxton Craven. I was actually always wearing a black fuzzy North Face jacket and pink and black free runs. And I was in student council with a lot of his friends. And I don't really know why Thad never got into student council, but all of his friends were in there. And I wasn't the cool girl, but Thad was in a purple Nike sweatshirt. Those were our two outfits. I had the pink free runs and he had the purple Nike jacket. And one day, one of his friends came up to me and was like, "This kid really likes you." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't even know who he is." And they're like, "Well, one day we'll have to get y'all to meet." And so we ended up hanging out and it took off ever since then. So we remained friends after through middle school and high school, and then we reconnected about 4 years ago.
True story.
Thad, when Lauren says she found out someone liked her, that someone being you, why did you like her? What was it about it that attracted you to Lauren?
Yeah, Thad, what was it?
I saw Lauren. I saw you around campus a lot.
Yeah.
But obviously, whenever I first saw her, I was like, "Man, that girl's really pretty." I was in 6th grade. But then the longer we got to hang out, I was like, "Oh, I could actually hang out with her. She's pretty cool. She's one of my friends." And then we dated for a little bit. And then, like she said, we didn't date through high school. We kind of did our own things. We went to separate high schools. And that's when I was first starting to race a lot. Actually, even when we didn't date, Lauren attended a lot of my first races, like my first race at Caraway, my first ever race at Daytona, my very first ever ARCA race in Nashville. She still didn't miss one, even though we weren't dating. And then right around COVID time
Yeah.
is when we started to reconnect.
Why didn't you miss a race, Lauren? What were you destined to be in love with this guy?
My dad
Probably
is
because
like
of her dad.
Dad Moffitt's.
All right, I was hoping you'd get to your dad and your family. So, tell the listeners a little bit about your family. And I'm sorry, it's going to go back to racing. That's kind of what this podcast does. But tell us about your lineage and how your family's involved with racing. I think it's pretty interesting. I was talking to your dad a little bit about it at Pocono. So tell the listeners about the Welborns.
So my family, so my dad's uncle, Bob Welborn, actually ran, and he sat on the pole at the first Daytona 500, and Lee Petty won the race. So it's kind of cool to see
Small world.
this come back together.
And Lauren had
And
no idea any of this. Her dad actually raced some local stuff like Legend Car, some late model stuff, some super truck stuff around here. Locally, her dad and her grandpa just raced in this area, I would say. They raced like Bowman Gray and Caraway and places like that. And that was about as much as Lauren knew about racing.
I watched my dad one time at Bowman Gray, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then that was about it.
Had no idea who Richard Petty was.
That's a funny story.
You're kidding, really?
No idea. So we were going to Charlotte.
No, we were going to Martinsville. We were heading to Martinsville. Thad told me that I was going to Martinsville with him.
This is like in the 6th grade. Like we were both 12 years old.
And I was like, okay, that's fine. You know, your parents talk at this time, arranging plans. And so Rebecca and my mom were talking. And I get back home and I was like, Dad, they asked me to go to a race. And my dad was like, well, yeah, that's what their family does. And I was like, do what? I don't know, Dad. And he was like, okay, this is probably the easiest way to explain it. The guy that's in all of the pictures at Sir Pizza, that's the guy you're going to be with at the racetrack. That's grandfather. And I was like, cool. Okay. I mean, now I know what great.
It meant nothing to you at that moment.
It didn't. I didn't have a clue who he was.
He has his picture in the Sir Pizza. So what?
But Dad, you got to admit, that's kind of a great quality to have in someone who, you know, is going to be your future wife. I mean, she's not marrying you for the fame or fortune or anything like that. So
yeah, it's definitely one of those things for sure that she had no idea. She's since learned a lot about Grandpa and still doesn't know a ton of the history or any of that stuff, but she definitely sees him in his modern day form and how special of a person that he is to all of us. And that's really cool. We've been on family vacations together now.
Yes.
With Grandpa. So she definitely knows who he is now, but I thought that was funny at the time that her dad had to kind of set her down and say, listen, you're going to the race with Richard Petty. And she was like, okay, who's Richard Petty? The guy in Cars.
I really didn't even know that either at first.
That he was in the movie Cars.
Mr. the King?
Yes. So I learned a lot. And now I just continue to learn something new every day.
Well, let's learn a little bit more about you, Lauren. So tell us about your childhood, a little bit about your parents. What were your interests growing up? Your family, you know, lovely sister Logan, and your mom and dad I absolutely love to death. So tell us about growing up in the Welborn family.
So the Welborns are they're funny. I have a sister and we're 13 months apart. So we've kind of all been very close family. Growing up, we played soccer, and that's all we did. We traveled and played soccer. And Thad's sister actually plays soccer too, and we were kind of on like the same teams kind of. We never really played together though, but so we always knew of each other family-wise. But my family, we enjoyed going to the lake. We enjoy going to the beach and just kind of being together. I have 2 cousins that were all like sisters. So there's 4 of us, and my dad got all girls and no boys. And so he got stuck with us. And so racing just in our family, he had to kind of be done after a little while when he was like, I need to take on my family business and I can't do that racing and spending a lot of money doing that. So my father owns a tractor trailer business and my mother used to do decals and now she is a GC and flips houses. And so we're kind of just everywhere. That's the Welborns for you. We all do something completely different. My sister works in the furniture business. I work in dental, and yeah, that's a little bit of, yes, I own an online clothing store. So we all do something a little different, but in some way we help each other each and every day. And we're a good family. I'm glad.
You certainly are. I greatly enjoy hanging out with your folks. They're fantastic. So, Lauren, we talked about your parents. When was the first time you met, I guess, officially in girlfriend context, Thad's parents? Like, do you recall the first time you met Rebecca and Brian as Thad's girlfriend?
It was in 6th grade. I don't remember. I was very shy. I kind of still am sometimes. Like, I've opened up a lot more. But I probably didn't even say but like 2 words to them. I probably was like, hi, I'm Lauren. It's nice to meet you. That was probably it. And Thad was probably the same way. He was goofy, but he was still shy. He was pretty quiet back in the day.
What did you do, Thad? You like, hey guys, this is my girlfriend Lauren, and then that was it.
I was 12, dude. It's not like I could go pick her up. Like, they knew where we were going.
We had to say, Jenny, will you take us somewhere? Or Rebecca typically picked everybody up from school.
Yeah,
but I'm trying to pinpoint like when you're asking your parents to take you guys somewhere. Like, do you recall the first time you did that? And if so, like, how did it go? Like, you're like, hey, me and this girl Lauren want to go. Who's Lauren? Like, was that ever was that a situation that occurred?
Both helped out a lot with school. And
okay, so they were aware of each other.
They knew each other.
Knew each other, yeah.
Our parents knew each other before we like dated.
How do you know this wasn't an arranged relationship? Could have been. I don't know.
But I think that our parents were like friends. Well, just like you said, in the early 2000s, like me and you would have been in diapers, and my grandfather's hauler was in fleet painting service when it caught on fire. So my mom had already spoken to Neil.
Go back to that. What do you mean it caught on fire?
So your building, your family's building burnt down right here in Hillsville. I don't know exactly when it happened.
I don't know exactly either, but that was one thing my dad also told me when I was younger. He was like, yep, burnt their hauler down when our building catched on fire. So it was my great-grandfather actually started the business. That was their first building, and it went down in flames, and so did their hauler.
So our hauler was inside. At the time, like I said, I was in diapers, or if I was even born yet. And so I don't know much about it, but obviously they had to call my family and say, hey, listen, we had a fire, an accident. Your hauler was inside. It got burnt, whatever, we'll get it fixed. And so, yeah, they were well aware of each other. Obviously, Bob and Lee raced each other and then kind of just moved down generations. And we didn't really know any of that until we started dating each other, and then we both got a history lesson.
Well, here's my theory now. It's all coming together. I think at some point when your dad, or who is it, your dad or your great grandfather, calling the petties and saying their hauler burnt down?
Yep.
Right? Okay. Here's what I think went down. Who would have they talked to at the petties? Are you aware? Would have been who? Richard, or that have been, was your dad?
Maybe Kyle at the time.
Okay. Kyle or your dad, they're working. Here's what I think went down. I think there was no way to repay for the damage that were done. So the petties said, well, you got to offer your daughter or something, right? As a dowry.
You think
I think that's what happened.
Maybe. We need to know what
makes sense. We have to get to the bottom of this.
But how did they decide?
Between the sisters.
Well,
They have daughters,
yeah.
right? Like multiple. It's not you have to offer your daughter.
So maybe they're like, choose one of our daughters, and I don't know who made that decision. And we gotta get to the bottom of this. This is just too weird.
Conspiracy theories. You're crazy, man.
I am crazy.
You come up with the wall theories.
Well, I mean, it's just too convenient that, you know, you guys know each other for that long, and then a hauler burns down, and now you guys are engaged. Like, something don't add up. But
Pretty crazy.
anyway, very interesting. Let's fast forward to the big question, right? I was recently reading this article. I think it's from like Essentially Sports, which is an interesting website to say the least. They've done some interviews with that, and they published some interesting articles. But I think their timelines got mixed up because they acted like you guys just got engaged like a couple weeks ago, and they're like, "Congratulations!" I think they had seen engagement pictures, is what I'm deducing. So they assumed you were engaged. But backing up, Thad, you popped the big question. New Year's Eve, correct?
No, it was not New Year's Eve. It was Super Bowl Sunday before the
Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
That's right.
It was the week before I went to Daytona for the truck race.
That's right.
I told him
That's right.
if we were going to get engaged, it was not going to be at a racetrack.
Well, I was coaching my boy on what to do and what not to do. So it sounded like he did pretty well.
He did.
I recall.
He did do good. I was actually messing with Thad's niece, and I was talking to her, and he kept saying my name, which he always says my name. And I'm like, what, Thad? I'm just like still talking to her. She's playing, eating. And I turned around and I was like, that is, when I tell y'all, he is the biggest jokester. Like, he would want to put the box with no ring in it. Like, that would be Thad. And because
I hope he didn't do that, though.
No,
he's a thing. Okay, good.
He didn't do that, but that is something he would do. And
yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness. So I was like, are you being serious? And like, he didn't open the box. So I was like, are you being serious? And then like, he did it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he said, the cutest little thing.
What did you say? I got to hear what you said because I wasn't there. So like, what did you say, Thad?
I don't really recall right now.
Yeah. How do you not recall?
I used her full name.
He did use my full name.
Lauren Neely Welborn. I can't imagine going through life without you. And then I said something else, or taking this next step in my life without you by my side. And then I said, will you marry me? And then she never answered. She just cried for like 10 minutes. And I was like, is that yes or no?
Everybody was like,
you would say that.
So how it was like set up. So like our friends were over there. Our parents were there, of course. My parents are late to everything. So they were even late to this. And we were standing there and one of our friends takes pictures. And this was told after. And they told him right when he got out of the car, do you have your camera? And he was like, yeah, I have my camera. What's going on? And like, they didn't tell him what was going on. But he got downstairs and they were like, take pictures, Cole. And Cole was like, of what? And he didn't even realize what was going on. And some of the friends were like, I thought someone had passed out. Like,
nobody
I didn't have
knew.
a clue.
None of my buddies knew. My family knew. And I actually went to Lauren's parents' house that morning and asked them if I could marry, or asked their daughter.
Right on.
Because I knew if I went, Lauren and her mom are really, really close. And I knew if I went to her mom and asked her a month or two in advance, that at some point in conversation, it could slip.
It would leak. Yeah.
It could slip up. So
I could definitely see that happening. Yeah.
My mom tells me.
So that morning I went over there and I said, hey, I'll talk to Neil first, and then I'll talk to Jenny after. And I asked them if I could marry you. And both of them said no, and then I still ask.
Stop it.
Wait, what? I seriously was going to ask this question. What, I think I was telling you when we were heading to the shop, and this was, I think, the week before you had proposed. As a married man, I can say what goes through your mind if you think her dad's going to say no. Did that ever cross your mind? Like, what if he says no, or did that never?
I don't know that I was never really concerned about like him saying no. More of like
Hell no.
answering the questions that he had. Like,
Gotcha.
I mean,
Did he ask you questions?
I'm a race car driver, right? With a year to year, and you see how this year went. I mean, you switch jobs in the middle of the year. You never know what
You couldn't have asked for a better year, dude.
Yeah.
It's been so good.
You never know what your next move is. So I mean, like you usually don't know. One race at a time is really how most of my career has been. Knowing if you had enough money to go to the next race, if you had enough sponsorship, if you had enough support, has kind of been my whole career. So like going to her dad, I was like, man, if he asks, how are you going to support her? I guess I'm just going to say I'll figure it out. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know, but I'll figure it out.
And
That's a great answer.
exactly, to be honest, that's exactly how our conversation went. I went and asked if I could marry her, and I said, I don't really know how I'm going to support her, but I promise you that she'll have everything that she wants. Like, I promise you I'll take care of her.
Where did you go, Thad? Did you go over to their house?
To their house.
So we don't do any part. And
but how do you, like, did you call, like, didn't you want him to get a loan with Neil?
Actually, I asked Neil first. We went the day before. That before I went and asked Jenny, I went and asked Neil. We had all went to the local park together, and Jenny and Lauren were over taking care of Lauren's nephew, Maddox, and it was just me and Neil standing there watching, and I was like, what do you think about me asking Lauren to marry me? And he, similar to Lauren, said, are you being serious? Like, I guess I just joke around all the time.
Are you serious, Mark?
And he said, you already know my answer. And then I was like, no, seriously. And he said, yeah, but one thing is you got to ask Jenny too. You can't just ask me. So then I went the next day and asked Jenny, and Neil already knew what was coming. So I called Jenny, and like we live like 5 minutes from each other. And I pulled out of my driveway and I said, are you at home? If she wasn't at home, I would have just had to sit in the driveway and wait. And so I went over there and asked Jenny, and actually your sister was there too. And she got to be in all the conversation.
Yeah.
And then I went back home, and then we went to Super Bowl Sunday, and
I wore sweatpants. I was wearing sweatpants when he did.
Yeah, but I mean, this is what I told Thad. I said the best time to ask is when it's not like all set up. It's not an event.
Oh, he caught on very quickly.
You know our families. Eugene, you've been around our families enough. My mom and my sister wanted to do like a balloon arch.
Oh, I know, and champagne and all that stuff. Yeah.
And I was like, "Are you?" She's gonna walk in the door and know what's going on. Like
they were all like, "All right, Lauren's got it handled after this. Like she'll be happy with just this." And I was like, "Yes, I'm very simple, but when it comes to like our wedding and stuff, not very simple."
Of course, and you have every right to feel that way. So, did you, Lauren? Did you have a feeling he was going to ask soon? Like, where on your radar was Thad's question going to be asked?
For like the last couple months before, I think I asked every single day when you were going to propose.
When okay, from the woman's perspective though, when do you start asking that, or when do you start like talking about it with your girlfriends or your mom? Like, when do you like, when is he going to ask me to marry him already? When did that start happening?
Well, since we had been together like previous, and like every time in high school, like that, of course, took a different route and went online schooling so he could race. But like maybe my sophomore year of high school, I think it was, I was over at their house every day during the summer. We were always swimming, hanging out, having fun. And when we got back together, we kind of like we decided, we were like, all right, Thad's in a different chapter. He needs to be near his race shop. And so we actually moved to Concord together. And that was probably the biggest leap I've taken in my life, because I'm the biggest homebody, and leaving my parents was hard. But I was like, I'm going to move in with him. We're going to see how this goes. And we lived together for like a year, and it was the best for us. I think that we learned way more than we had learned in the past, however long we've known each other. We learned so much about each other, and we grew together. And then I was at a different time in life. I was still finishing school, and then I was going back to school to do dental assisting. And once we our lease was up, I was like, what's our next plan? And we came home, and we stayed home for a month or two. And we luckily lucked up and found a beautiful home, and we were able to flip it and make it exactly what we wanted. But living together, being together, I try to not go a day without seeing him. Of course, his job kind of makes me sometimes not be able to see him. But when we're together every day in our families, everybody started asking, like about a year ago. Like it was like a nonstop thing. Like everyone kept asking, and Thad was like, all right, I'm about to the point where I'm not ever going to ask you if people do not stop asking me. And then I started.
I think that's what I said. I think I said, if you ask me one more time, I'm just never going to ask you to marry me. And then she didn't ask for like 2 months probably. And then I asked her to marry me. But funny story, the year before, Lauren wanted a ring for Christmas, and we got a doorbell camera, a ring doorbell camera. So she got a ring for Christmas.
Oh my! Did you do that on purpose? It sounds. You purposely did that? What a guy, man! Well, tell us about the actual ring, because I thought that was pretty cool what you did. So tell everyone.
Yeah, I made
the ring.
I actually made a custom ring, and actually, hitting close to home, the center diamond on it is my grandmother, Linda's diamond that was passed down to my mom and then passed down to me, gifted to Lauren. So that was pretty cool to have my grandma, even though she's been gone 10 years now and we miss her dearly, have her play part in it's going to be my marriage and my engagement. So that was pretty cool. And we got it made here at a local jeweler, which is always cool to deal with people in our area and support our local businesses and stuff. But it's definitely a custom from the top to the bottom ring.
It's beautiful, and I love it. Speaking of his grandmother, when we moved into this house, we kept seeing, we have like little plants outside, and every day during my when I got off from school, I would come home and there would be like butterflies, and I resemble butterflies to be my grandmother, my great-grandmother. And there would be a hummingbird that would come every once in a while. And that's what Dad has always told me. Like, if we saw a hummingbird, that's his grandmother. And for the longest time, they would come almost every day and kind of like stop in by the house and keep going. But
That's pretty cool.
I think
That is cool.
I don't know if I ever met her, but my family speaks very highly. My grandmother adored her. Dad also talks a lot about Adam, being close to them. Growing up, like Dad said that Adam would walk in and Dad would just get a smile on his face because he was always funny. And he would always have a joke to say.
When's the big day as we're closing? When we got on the calendar?
Next November.
Thanksgiving, Thad? You like all these holidays?
No, we only have.
Are you going to do the championship race next year?
We have 3 months a year that we know that we could get married in, because until they release the schedule, right? You know, you got November.
That's right.
You got November, December, and January. So I said, just pick a time, and the soonest one was November of 25 that we could really put everything together.
Yeah.
And so
And we're peacing out and going somewhere warm.
Fantastic. Well, before we get silly in a minute here, I'm going to get all mushy and emotional like I did with your dad. So, Thad, what is one thing? I mean, there's lots of things, but what's the one thing you admire about Lauren the most?
Probably her heart, that she always puts other people before herself, is probably the best thing. She definitely has the biggest heart and loves everybody. Never met a stranger.
That's true.
What about you, Lauren? What about Thad?
I adore a lot of things about Thad. I like how Thad brings out the best person in me, and he strives to be better for us and better for himself every single day. And there's not a day that I don't come home, even if I had the worst day in the world, that he's not there to say something funny or say something even sweet, to just put a smile on my face. And even just seeing him sometimes is just the best. But he has the best personality, and I think that in the job that he does, it's hard to, like, I don't know, for people to see that sometimes. But I think he does a great job home and on the track. So.
That's exactly how I feel about Thad. So, weird.
We both do.
No, that was very sweet. Appreciate that from both of you. Well, okay. We are going to have some fun. We're going to take a quick break, but we're going to do some rapid fire newlywed questions. See how well you guys know each other in front of an audience. All right.
Sounds good.
Does that sound good? All right. Hold on, folks. Let's listen to a word from our partners. Pristine Auction is the most trusted sports memorabilia and collectibles auction site. Auctions on pristineauction.com start at just $1, and each day, thousands of signed items are available. So you win signed, authentic items at affordable prices. Every item on pristineauction.com comes with a certificate of authenticity from the industry's most reputable authenticators.
PristineAuction.com is your one-stop shop for all authentic signed die-cast, helmets, trading cards, photos, and so much more of your favorite driver.
All right, Thad. Well, first off, before I get into my awesome auction item, we had a fantastic activation with Pristine Auction. A lucky fan designed your paint scheme for the championship finale at Phoenix, and we named that winner a couple weeks ago. So look out for that paint scheme at Phoenix. So we're super pumped about that. But right now I'm looking at a Babe Ruth signed baseball. Never thought I'd want one of those, but it seems like something that you got to have once in your life, right? If you've got the moolah to buy it, and this bad boy is up to $10,500. So I don't think I'll be getting that anytime soon, but I got my eye on it because I want to see how much it goes for. So what are you looking at?
I am eyeing up this Chris Kyle signed American Sniper hardcover book on Pristine Auction. So this was a really cool movie for me to watch, and definitely going to try and get my hands on it if it doesn't get too high up there in price.
Upgrade your collection today and get $10 off your first win using registration code THAD. Again, that's registration code THAD for $10 off your first order. Links are in the show notes.
Oh my God, this is so good.
What are you eating?
Some tasty duck, Thad. What do you think?
Some of America's tastiest duck.
That's right. So for our friends at Joe Jurgowitz & Son, raising America's tastiest duck is the family business. As a fourth-generation family-owned company, Joe Jurgowitz & Son is proud to sponsor Thad Moffitt and the number 46 truck, and proud to offer our podcast listeners 20% off at tastyduck.com. So visit tastyduck.com to shop Joe Jurgowitz & Son's delicious range of whole ducks, duck parts, and more. At checkout, enter the code THAD in all caps for 20% off. Again, go to tastyduck.com, enter THAD to get America's tastiest duck delivered to your door for how much off, Thad?
20% off.
20% off, baby. Visit tastyduck.com and make sure you keep on quacking.
Induction Innovations is a leader in American-made handheld induction heaters, home to the original mini ductor. For over 20 years, they have been innovating how mechanics can tackle challenges like Loctite, rust, and much more.
Induction Innovations Mini Ductor series was meant to free up components quickly using induction heat. The Mini Ductor is designed to help techs cut down on ticket times and say, forget that torch.
Induction Innovations. Do it faster, do it better, do it safer. Visit theinductor.com to learn more.
All right, we are back, ready to rumble. We got Lauren hanging with us for the second half of the podcast. Still got a lot to talk about that, about what's been going on. But for now, we're going to have some really fun newlywed questions. How do you think you guys are going to do?
I don't know.
We're about to find out.
All right, let's do it. All right, so the object is, if you guys aren't familiar with like the newlywed style game, for example, I'm going to ask Lauren a question. She has to tell me what Thad would say as an answer. Make sense, Thad? Make sense, Lauren?
I'm following.
Makes it.
All right, good deal. Well, Lauren, ladies first. We're going to start with you. Who would Thad say is the best cook?
Dad would say that himself.
Himself?
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably what I say. I really like to cook and eat my own food. Preferably duck.
Preferably duck.
That's what we have for dinner.
Every night?
Just tonight. We eat it
At least once a week.
once a week, yeah.
At least once a week. That's a great question.
You should all go try Tasty Duck.
That's right. TastyDuck.com, folks. Thad, what is Lauren's favorite flavor of potato chips?
Salt and vinegar potato chips.
That is
Is that right? Oh, man. All right, we're doing pretty good, folks.
The kettle cooked salt and vinegar ones, preferably.
Oh, the kettle cooked ones. Which brand? Does she have a specific brand?
The Cape Cod ones, probably, because I have been in the C-store before and bought Lay's salt and vinegar chips, and when I got back to the car, I bought the wrong chips.
that is correct.
All right, Lauren, who's the better driver? Who would Thad say is the better driver?
Me. I is the better driver.
On and off the track?
Thad, not on the track. I don't even want to know what I would look like on the track. But in the car, like that is by far the most distracted driver in the world. Everybody that rides with him says,
Yes, he is.
They don't understand. They're like, you were the worst driver ever.
Does Thad agree?
That's a lot.
He's going to love
That's a lot.
Of the driver, why don't you drive anywhere then? If you're the better driver, why do I drive everywhere?
Well, because I don't want to drive. I do let him drive, but sometimes I'm like, get off your phone. Dad, the speed limit is 35.
Yeah, well, just because I go too fast doesn't mean I'm a bad driver.
Okay.
There's some truth to that. All right, Thad. Which item of clothing of yours do you think Lauren hates the most?
My NASCAR shirts.
No way, really? The vintage one?
I wear vintage throwback NASCAR shirts, and I wear them everywhere all day. And she's like, don't you have any other clothes? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't like my other clothes. I like my Mark Martin shirts and my Jeff Gordon shirts and my Richard Petty shirts.
He really got on this kick like a couple months ago, and it was just like every single day there was a new T-shirt in the mail, and I was like, okay, like we can't just wear throwback T-shirts every single day, but he still does.
I love your throwback shirts, man. I got a bunch too. I think Caitlin feels the same way. All right. Okay, Lauren, in one word, what word would Thad come up with to describe you? These are when they get a little tricky. This is where on the show they'd have like a little board and they'd write the answer, and it's pretty entertaining. So if there was a word that Thad would use to describe you, what would it be?
It's probably not appropriate for the podcast.
What'd you say? Problematic?
So it's not appropriate for the podcast. I'm just kidding. Genuine.
That was a good answer.
Genuine.
That was a good answer.
Would you agree? What was the word that you would think of?
He's thinking something funny.
I don't know what the first thing I would think of is probably stinky.
That's not on the podcast. He calls me stinky butt all the time, and that's why I said
great answer.
You know how people have like those cute names for each other? I just call my fiancée Stinky Butt.
Stinky butt. I love it.
He's always like, "Is that you or is that the dog?"
Oh, you make me feel like a bad dude.
That's pretty funny. All right, Thad, who said "I love you" first?
Probably me, if I had to guess.
That's mushy gushy.
Was that correct?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh man! All right, we got a couple more, and then I'll leave you guys alone. What, Lauren? What's a phrase or word Thad uses way too often? Way too often.
What are you doing? He will ask.
That is so correct.
I literally will stand there right with him. I will be doing the same thing he's doing. What are you doing? Lauren,
what are you
what
doing?
are you doing?
I'm just a curious guy, I guess.
Yeah, you can say that again. Thad, Lauren's habits, quirky habits. What's one quirky habit that you can't stand that she knows about?
That she'll do the laundry, but when she gets it out of the laundry, she just sets it on top of the dryer and thinks it's going to fold itself.
That's really cool. But
Would you agree with that?
yes.
That's probably what I complain about the most. And that she never wants to eat anywhere, and then when I suggest something, that she doesn't want to eat there.
Oh, like the Notebook syndrome.
Yeah. I'll
See that meme where he goes, "What do you want?" And the guys use it as like, "Where do the women want to eat?" And she's like, "It's not that simple. I don't know."
That's it. I'll say, "Where do you want to go for dinner?" And she'll say, "I don't care, wherever you want to go." And I said, "Okay, we'll go to Chipotle." I don't want Chipotle. Just here.
Or I'll say, I don't know. And he's like, I've never heard of that place, Lauren. Never been there before.
That restaurant must be new.
Yeah.
Oh man! All right, I got one more question. Who is it? Is it Lawrence or is it Thad?
Yeah,
I lost track.
I think
that was a funny round.
I just answered about.
Yeah, I think it's Lauren's turn. Okay, what's one meal that Thad thinks you like that you really don't like?
It used to be. No, I don't know. I don't really know of a meal that I don't like because he knows for sure not to cook something I don't like because he knows I won't eat. But one
probably
time,
chicken stir fry. I made us eat chicken, rice, and stir fry. Like chicken.
That's true.
I used to make us eat it like twice a week, and
it's like no more.
It's just like chicken, vegetables, and rice with a little bit of sauce. And then all of a sudden, I was like, "Hey, you want to do stir fry?" Nope. Hey, you want to do stir fry? Nope. So,
one meal that it was like the first time he like really cooked for me and tried to be like really fancy with it. We were living in the apartment, and TikTok is where he gets all his recipes. And he was looking at the TikTok, and he missed like the biggest part of the directions. And he was cooking chicken parmesan. And he had like hand breaded the chicken, everything. And it tells you to cook the chicken before you put it in the oven.
Right.
He didn't do that. He kind of seared it on both sides and then put it in the oven. And he was like, "Lauren, this stuff is not cooking. It's almost been an hour." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's cooking, I'm like, did you cook it before you put it in there? No. I mean, I seared it on both sides, and I was like, we're just going to have to throw this away and try again. But there's been multiple times that I've burnt the snot out of some food, and we had to just go pick up food.
All right, I'm going to end with one final question. You guys can both answer it. So, Thad, what is Lauren's weirdest fear?
Lauren's like deathly afraid that somebody's going to come into our house every single night and snatch us up. Like the washing machine and dryer will make a noise, and she'll be like, "Is somebody in here? Is somebody in the house?" I'll be like, "No, that's our dryer," and I have to get out of bed and go make sure that nobody's at our house.
Something really funny about me is I come home for lunch every day, and there's certain times that like random people will like be walking down the street or something, or it could be even the post mail person. Like they'll pull up in the driveway, and I do like a tuck and roll. Like you are not listening me in this house, no matter how many windows are around me. I'm rolling into somewhere that you will not find me, and I probably will not come out.
So that's true. That's your fear. You'd agree with that?
Yes, that's my big.
Okay.
I don't know why it is, but I am so scared of everything.
You have to answer the question too. What is?
Yeah. So Lauren, what do you think Thad's weirdest fear is?
It used to be heights, but that recently changed when we saw a different perspective of life, and now he's not afraid of anything. He does.
Did you say heights?
Yes, he is.
Oh.
He was. He's gotten.
Me and my grandfather were both deathly afraid of heights.
Interesting.
Yeah, and now Dad's not afraid of anything. Well, I mean,
I would be scared.
He says so.
I'm not scared of anything.
I'm scared of everything.
Well, I think you guys did pretty good. I mean, all things considered.
Yeah.
You should be proud of yourselves.
I feel like I won.
What'd you win?
It was a contest. It's like a show. Like if we were on a game show.
I definitely won.
What do they win on Newlywed Games? I don't.
You won the grand prize of $0.
Okay.
You won a new Buick LeSabre. You won a honeymoon to Level Cross, North Carolina.
Yay! I'm so excited. I don't even know how to get around Level Cross.
All right, Lauren, thank you so much for being on here. Would you like to plug your wonderful business? Tell us a little bit about that before you depart.
So, El Neely is an online clothing store that recently was put into Asheboro Mall. They do like a 50-plus vendor store. It's called the Maker Merchant. You can go shop there at the Asheboro Mall. But you can shop online at elneely.com. And I actually started El Neely when I graduated high school and started school. I was going to community college. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I had always had a passion for fashion. And it was something I had always dreamed of doing. And I continue to dream of owning a storefront one day. But right now, life is a little different. Traveling with that on the weekends and working my job during the week kind of limits me to be able to do that. But, yeah, go check it out.
Very cool. Definitely check it out, everybody. Well, thank you again, Lauren.
Well, thanks for having me on Made in Level Cross.
Thank you. All right, that was a lot of fun having your fiance, future wife on the podcast. Definitely liked having her on there, talking a little about your life and your future together.
For sure.
That was pretty cool.
It's not just all racing in life. There's more to it than that. But
there's way more to that. Amen to that.
Yep.
Well, it's been a while since we talked. So let's talk about a little bit about racing here. So we just came off of Richmond. Not quite the weekend we wanted, but you had a pretty decent looking truck. Richmond, we had our friends at Safety Clean on board. You want to walk us through that weekend and a little of a recap?
Yeah. So Yeah, I felt like Richmond was a step in the right direction. Even though we didn't get the result that we wanted, we practiced better than we had been. Felt good about the truck. We were in the ballpark on speed. And then in qualifying, qualified better than we had the other two races in the Young's truck. And felt like we were okay. I never really felt like we were great. Kind of lacked some corner exit grip and a little free end during the race, and got to work on it. Kind of really got all thrown out of whack at the end of stage one. Me and kind of everybody in the group, when we lost a lap on pit road, it kind of threw us all off from what we had planned on. I think Aiden crew chiefed me for the first time this weekend and did a wonderful job. I think that having him up on the box, he was willing to play some strategy. So the caution came out before the end of stage one, and we never pitted. We stayed out on old tires, so that way that we would have 10, 12 lap fresher tires at the end of the first stage when we went to stage two. And then it didn't really make a difference because we had lost a lap on pit road and had to restart tail end of the longest line anyways. And then went to stage two and didn't run great. Obviously, we had lost the little bit of track position we did have, but we were making gains on it. We were making it drive better. We were faster in the second stage, and then obviously got caught up in that wreck when I think the 77 got into the 25 and spun the 5. And, not my greatest moment, but all you can do is move forward and get better and learn from it. Definitely wish I could have that set of corners back and maybe not lock up the left front. But on low air pressure, when you're behind everybody, it's easy to do. And, just made a mistake and then ended up not really damaging the truck a ton, we had the nose damage, but it just hit it perfect enough where it did knock the radiator out of it. Luckily, the front clip was fine, so we were able just to put a new nose on it, put a new radiator in it, get the truck back on track. But, it was definitely not fun.
Well, you looked pretty good out there, and a lot of fun hanging out with Uncle Drew and Buddy, Judy from Safety Clean, and all our friends over there in Clean Harbors. Blessed to have them on board as partners and looking forward to what the future holds with them. They've been a long-time supporter of you and your family. So many thanks to them, and here's to the remainder of the season and for next year. So in closing, got to get your hot take on the Richmond fiasco, the Richmond controversy, because I was in the minority at the garage, maybe not with a lot of sane thinking people, but I didn't have a dog in the fight, so yeah. I thought I was making.
And that's kind of where I stand on it. What is my opinion? It doesn't matter either way. NASCAR didn't call me on Monday and say, "Hey, should we penalize Austin Dillon?"
They called me, so I gave my opinion. Yeah, boy, did they make the right call.
I don't really have a dog in the fight. I like Childress and his group of people, and man, they've been struggling this year, and I think the 3 cars should have won the race anyways. If Ricky Stenhouse doesn't wreck Ryan Preece, then he would have won the race by 6 seconds.
Absolutely, that 3 car was on the money.
But
for that race,
had I been in the 3 car, I would have not done the same thing. That one would have stung had he run second, and he would have been like, man, I really felt like I gave one away. But it's tough to say, sitting here, right? Who am I to – I don't know until I'm in that situation. I do think that there is a line that as a race car, in the race car, in NASCAR, there is a line. And – right now, I agree with all the comments. There is no clear line. If you listen to one of our driver meetings or look at our handout, there's really no rough driving line. Technically, what Austin did is not specified in the rule book as a penalty. So I don't know. There's no black and white to the situation. It's very gray.
I agree with you because I do not drive. In that situation, here's what I've said to everybody. NASCAR created that scenario to happen. I think everyone can agree with that. With this playoff system, NASCAR knew exactly what they wanted with this playoff system. They wanted these dramatic finishes. They wanted people to do some crazy stuff within reason. And in that respect, I think Austin was justified in going all out. I mean, the guy's he was 32nd in the points. He was doing what he's paid to do every week, and that's to win races, to compete for championships. So in that respect, I'm not faulting Austin for what he did. However, people are like, what's the line, right? You clearly state there's nothing in a rule book that says don't do that, right? It's an unwritten rule with drivers. It's just your code of conduct, right? You don't just punt a guy out.
The 3-car should not expect, if he lines up on a green white checkered now, he should not expect to make it back to the checkered flag if the 11 or the 22 is anywhere near.
Yep.
That's the box he put himself in.
That's a fact. Yeah, especially those two guys.
Yeah, everybody else though, I think he's still on good terms with. I mean, he didn't do anything to anybody else. It's kind of like a 1-on-1 feud, or I guess 2-on-1 in this situation feud that he has with him. But I mean,
do you feel like if it happened to anybody else though, I'm trying to swap Logano and Hamlin are two of the most. I mean, they're disliked, right? We can agree on that. They're not fan favorites. They have their fans, but in the overarching narrative, they're the villains of the sport. If that was a Chase Elliott or Kyle Larson, I don't think we're talking about this, and I don't think it'd be a clear-cut issue with fans saying, "Yep, he deserves a penalty." I think where it got gray was the fact that he got involved with those two specifically.
It may have got gray from this fan's perspective because it was those two, but if you're looking at it as NASCAR and there's a 3-car incident and one car caused the whole 3-car incident, and there's nothing that says that the one car can't cause the 3-car incident, then how do you make a judgment call? I don't know.
I don't know either. I just know. I think NASCAR made the right call. And I know it's very controversial, and a lot of people disagreed with me in the garage. I mean, a lot of people talking about you, Jerry. Very passionate fans. But I was looking back at things that Joey had done, what Denny had done. Yeah, they've done some questionable things to win, but to me, that was so blatantly obvious. And I like how the RCR guys were like, if they were put in that situation, they would have done the same thing. I'm not a driver. You would probably have more weight than I do, certainly. I don't think they would have done it. Do you? Do you think they would have put the 3 in the wall like that? Or they probably would have put him in the wall, but not in that.
If Joey had not already won and Denny had not already won, yes, I think with 3 races.
You really think so? They would have dive bombed the 3?
I think. Well, I mean, look at what Joey's year was before Nashville. Joey was struggling before Nashville, and now with Richmond, and then you've got 3 more weeks, and one of the weeks being Daytona to make the playoffs, and you're 25th in points. I mean, what would Joey do? Joey's a 2-time champion. I think he deserves to be in the playoffs. But have they?
Hey, well, it goes back to this is the game that NASCAR created, right? Does Austin Dillon deserve to be in the playoffs?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's tough to call it. I don't know if Joey would have done the same thing. I don't know if Denny would have done the same thing. But they might have been desperate if they were having a year like Austin Dillon where they're 30th in points and they're like, man, this might be my only shot to get in the playoffs, and it's one set of corners. What do I do?
Yeah, it's hard. And I know, I'm sure the listeners of this show have their opinions.
I don't want to make that call.
No, I mean, I don't, like you said, I don't have a dog in the fight. Maybe years ago when I was a diehard, Tony Stewart fan, I would have been more vocal about things. But now I just watch the sport as I try to be an unbiased fan. I love watching the sport. I'm not a fan of this playoff system. I never have been. Call me old school. I really like how racing used to be, where a driver puts a whole long season of cumulative effort to win a championship. The fact that a guy in 30-second points can just qualify to be in the championship hunt.
I don't dislike that they take 16 and they get to do like a playoff system. I get that. I understand that. I just don't know that I love the whole win and you're in situation.
Would you go back to a chase? I'd compromise with that, like how they used to when they would take the top 10 or top 12 or whatever it was, and then let them guys compete.
If we want to create a playoff, let's have a playoff, but make it the 16 best guys all year. Like in the NFL, if you lose every game and then the week before the playoffs you win, you don't get to go to the playoffs.
No, that's right.
In baseball, if you have a losing season and you go on a 5-game win streak right before the World Series starts, right? That's not, every other sport is they take the best, right? And then they let them have at it. And then one of them comes out the champion.
Well, and this is why I felt the way I did about Austin Dillon, because I said to myself, okay, granted, and this was before they put those penalties out, but, he's in, right? He gets one of those 16 playoff berths. Imagine by some miracle, Austin Dillon makes it the championship 4 and then wins the Cup championship. How would anybody call that a champion? And maybe I'm 100% wrong, man, but I don't think that's the way it should be done. And I was vocal against it, when Joey won his championship. I didn't think he deserved to earn that. That was like 2 years ago. He had a mediocre season. That's been my biggest problem with this playoff system. You had guys like Harvick and Hamlin years ago that went on tears, and then they got nothing to show for it.
I agree. That year that Harvick and Hamlin both won,
what was that, 2020 or
won
it was 2020
races, and then neither of them were in the championship 4.
Neither of them got in the
But then you have your Kyle Larson championship season where he won 10 races.
Agreed. And he really was the best driver that
right. And I think in Chase's championship season, I think the 9 car was the car to beat majority of the year. He was pretty good.
But you had the 20 and the 11, or excuse me, the 4 and 11 winning a lot of races that year. And I'm not disagreeing. Chase Elliott was pretty good that season, but I don't know. To me, it kind of cheapens what a championship means. The hard work and effort that guys like Earnhardt, your grandfather.
Yeah, I understand, and I get the playoff narrative, and there is a lot of instances where you see a Cinderella story in the playoffs in other sports.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. You get a team that just makes it in from a wild card spot, and somehow they're playing in the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
They're one of the last 4 teams. You see it in every sport. You see teams that show up in the playoffs, and NASCAR I don't think is any different. I just don't know that I agree with the win in your in situation, which I'm not taking. It's hard to win a race at the cup level. It's hard to win a race in any of the NASCAR top 3 series. So
there was a clip for Carl Edwards. This was back in 2016, I want to say. I don't know if you've ever seen that clip, but even when they were introducing stages to racing, I don't know how you feel about stages because you're actively driving, right? Carl Edwards said in an interview about stages and just the playoff system and where the sport was going. He said that stages in a race are like evening the scoreboard in a basketball game, for example. So the Sixers versus the Knicks. Knicks are up by 30 points, and then that period ends, and the score is evened out. That's how I felt about it. I don't know how you feel. I know sometimes it's a nice reset, especially for fans, because there's races that can drag, and I'm sure for you drivers, it feels the same way.
I could see like the Coca-Cola 600 having to have stages.
Yeah.
The Daytona 500 having.
Do you like stages when you're driving?
Not really. I think that I would rather. It kind of hurts me at a lot of places because, like, my first ever green flag pit stop was in Vegas this year because I had never run long enough to do a green flag pit stop. Like, our stages are like 30 laps. You don't run out of gas in 30 laps in the truck series. So I think it hurts the experience that you get, but then also everybody's dealt the same hand. So on days when we're really bad and a stage might save us from going a lap down, I like
very true,
right? But then if I was the leader and I had a 6.5 second lead, and then we all go to pit road together and I end up coming out 5th, I'm going to be pissed off. Like, why do we have a caution? Nobody even wrecked, So I can see both sides of it, but
it's interesting. And we could talk all day about it, but I just wanted your opinion and I guess to share mine, whether it's right, wrong, or who cares. It was a hot button issue for everybody, and I figured why not talk about it here on our show. So got any final parting words of wisdom for the folks? I know you're heading out to Milwaukee this week to see our awesome family, Induction Innovations family. Going to meet Tom Goff and Amy and Cliff and all our friends up there. But you got any parting words of wisdom for our friends out there?
Change your oil every 3,000 miles.
That's right. And make sure you turn off your displacement on demand, active fuel management, any of that garbage that turns your V8 into a 4-cylinder engine for the sake of saving fuel. It's going to bite you in the butt, right, Thad?
Yeah, it bit me for sure.
Bit him in the butt. All right. Well, that is our show, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Went a little long today, but we haven't talked to our awesome audience in a little bit, so we thought it was fitting to give you guys a little something extra.
Yep, and be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on all your favorite streaming platforms. You can follow me on social media at Thad Moffitt.